Yep, so I'm at work. It's Friday. I should be at the allotment, but I'm not. Luckily the weather's been absolutely crap, so I haven't been missing it too much. And we'll get up there tomorrow. Look at this terrible mask I've got to wear. It's like a duck. Yeah. Just desperate to get outside. Even though it's absolutely peeing it down and windy and rainy. Happy Friday, by the way.
Gonna knock it off again, madam.
It's Sunday, and today is the first day this week that I've managed to get up to the allotment, amazingly. This whole going back to work malarkey takes up quite a bit of time. So I seem to have been kind of doing so much this past week. So I've gone back to work, obviously, so I'm back on site, so that knocks out 3 days of my week. Someone's laid an egg. Yeah, so that knocks out 3 days of my week. And then obviously I've decided to do this renovation in my room. So like every spare minute I'm doing that. And then by the time, so I work on Fridays now. If you watched my video about sowing spring onions, which came out yesterday. Oh, it's bright. Which came out yesterday. I was saying that I was coming up here yesterday evening after I'd got that video out, but that didn't happen. So yeah, and we've had the most atrocious wind and storms, and there's been, you know, catastrophe all across the gardening Instagram. And so I was really apprehensive about coming up here, which is why I wanted to get up here yesterday evening. But everything's still fine. Polytunnels sound, the covered bed, that's still fine. All of the new arches, nothing's over. The only thing that's come a cropper is Berta. But, you know, she falls over regularly. She'll bounce back. We'll get her back up. Yeah, so although I haven't been able to get here all week, everything's looking fine. It's a really nice day, and it is a Mother's Day. And my mother is here. Which, she's always here. But I know that quite a lot of people who are not able to see their mums this Mother's Day. So I'm pretty lucky on that front. Look at this animal. Sun's back out. Right, we've got lunch and we have got so much to do. I've got basically a whole, I haven't been able to kind of cut down the things that I want to do. I'm just trying to fit like a week's worth at the allotment in one day. Interesting, but we got some quite exciting things to do today. 2 bits of direct sowing, which is the first we're going to be doing this year. So we got carrots to go in, which will probably be early nanties, and we're going to be sowing some peas direct up there, some which we've had sprouting in the shed. So they're going in, so I need to build a pea frame. We've also bought some seedlings up, which are some lettuce seedlings, Little Gem, which are going to go in the end of the covered bed. The apricot is flowering, so I'm gonna have to go around and pretend to be a bee with a little paintbrush. And on top of that, I've got those 3 posts that need putting in around the back of the pond, so I'm probably going to be digging post holes. God, we got a lot to do. I better just go and get on with it.
How's it looking in there?
They're not very, you know how they're usually really pale pink? Well, they're not pale pink.
Oh.
The leaves are really pale, but the stem is not. I'll just try and push one to one side so you can see.
Oh yeah.
I can't see that light's getting in there though. Maybe it doesn't like green. Blue last year and it worked perfectly well.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure about that.
Really got no idea what's happening with that rhubarb. I mean, last year we were picking it at the beginning of February. This year we're so far behind. Jeez, look at the size of those turnips. So this is under the covered bed. This is just the plastic thrown over this mesh. And everything in here is doing so well. Looks incredible.
So
They're so lush. And then we've got the red veined sorrel in here, which is looking beautiful. And it's just next to this that I'm going to be planting the lettuces out today. So that's these chaps. So they're pretty leggy. They've been at home just kind of growing on, and I'm going to plant them really deep. This is our own compost that Mum has sieved into this big chicken bag. We sieve it mainly because we get quite a lot of woody matter in there, but look at that, doesn't it look beautiful? Gorgeous, gorgeous compost. So we're just going to spread that on top of the bed where I'm planting the lettuces out. We tend to throw on about, 2-3 centimetres every time we plant something out. Every little helps. So I said I'm going to plant these quite deep because they are really quite leggy, but I often find that with lettuces, even when I kind of grow them in the middle of summer and we've got loads of light and really long days, I find that when you grow them in pots, they just have a really long, like a big distance basically between where they emerge from the ground and where they start producing their leaves. It's really not a problem because you just plant them in really nice and deep. I'm planting them in their jiffy pots, not cutting them away. Because I'm planting them so deep, they're going to have a really big area of root to come kind of above the jiffy pot. So I'm not worried about that at all. And I'm just sticking them in right up to where their leaves are emerging. Whenever you plant lettuces out, they always look sad. It's just the way of lettuces, it seems to me. Maybe it doesn't happen that way for you, but for me, it really does. Every time I plant them out, they kind of look a bit wilty and they look really unhappy. And then, a couple of weeks later, you suddenly turn around and they're looking fantastic. It's just something that happens. Don't understand it, but that's the way it goes. Right, onto the peas. So this is the bed where I grew the peas last year, which has got loads of lettuces in it already, so I'm not doing them in there. I'm going to do them in this bed. Similar conditions, they both get a little bit of shade from where the bay tree is, so we should get the same result. Because last year's peas were amazing, so I'm hoping for a repeat performance. I'm using the cut down raspberry canes to grow my peas up. This always works really well. I'm really impressed by how strong raspberry canes are. So these ones I've got are this year's raspberry canes. We've got a lot less raspberries this year because we moved the fruit cage, as you know, and we just planted some new ones in there. So this is only this year's first year of these raspberry canes. But I've got loads left from last year. which are actually the ones that the peas grew up last year, and they've survived and they're still really strong. So I'm going to use a mixture of this year's and last year's. I really like being able to reuse our own stuff in the garden. So when I'm putting these pea frames together, I always because I'm not using a regular kind of size stick, they're all a bit mishmash, I tend to get them all out and pick out the largest canes first and do them down the centre. So I kind of build up from the inside, biggest canes in the middle, quite evenly spaced. And then from that point, I start kind of weaving in all of the smaller sticks. Once I've got all the canes in, I'm just going to tie them together. I could just leave them. And if I was using a more branching kind of pea stick, I wouldn't necessarily have to tie them in. But because these are just straight canes, I like to give them some sort of lateral support. So I'm just using old bits of string, like this isn't a whole ball, these are just sort of pre-cut bits. But it doesn't matter, so I'm just tying them at one end and then weaving them through the canes and looping them around and tying them up. Just gives them like a little bit of extra something and gives the peas something horizontal to grip onto as well. I am going to stick 2 stronger bamboo canes into the centre of these. When you've got the string going across, that can really help because you can't push the raspberry canes really far into the ground because they will snap. So just being able to stick a couple or maybe 2 really strong bamboo canes in there, just you can anchor them into the ground a bit more, just gives it a little bit more protection that it's not going to all fall over. And these are the peas I'm sowing. I don't actually know which variety these are, but they're the same ones I grew last year because they were given to me by a neighbour. I must ask her what variety they are actually, but they're brilliant. So they've been pre-sprouted in this wet kitchen roll. We've had them in the shed for a couple of days, and I'm just going to plant them straight underneath. Last year was the first year that I've direct sown my peas for a very long time, because it always used to be the case, I found, that you plant your peas out, or your broad beans, another reason why I don't direct sow broad beans, plant them out and nothing comes up, and it's because the mice have come along and eaten them all. But last year I did it this way and it worked an absolute treat, so I'm doing it again. I'm just kind of recreating last year. And something I find really useful is so I always build the pea cane setup first, and then I scatter the peas in amongst the canes so that you get them kind of spread across. I find that if I'm sowing them individually, like placing each one, I tend to go over the same spot quite often. I don't know why, and then you're kind of putting a stick where there's already a pea and it just gets a bit of a mishmash. If you scatter them out first, you know you've got a fairly even spread. And this works really, really well. You can sow them quite densely under here, and when you get quite a fat-ended bamboo cane, you just kind of undercut. So you stick the bamboo cane straight under the pea, not on top of it, just under, and you make your hole, and then as you pull the bamboo cane up, the pea falls in. Perfect. You can push them down a little bit if they don't go in, but just be really gentle, particularly with pre-sprouted peas, because if you kind of force them in there, you're going to snap off that root or the growing point from the pea. So just be a bit gentle, but you can kind of nudge them in. And also you'll find if you're doing them this way, if they're pre-sprouted, they'll often fall in with their root tail pointing upwards. Really don't worry about it, it's not going to make any difference to them. Okay, I'm going to rescue Berta now because she's just been lying there looking a bit like a corpse. So, yeah, let's sort her out. Poor love.
Come on then, Bertha.
She's found a friend while she's been lying on the floor too. Little moth. Okay, we are flying. We've got the lettuces in, we've got the peas in. I've got to sow the carrots, but Mum is just going to be doing, because we've got a really stony bed that they're going in, which might not be our best decision, but I mean most of our beds are really stony, so it's going in there. She's just going to do a bit of a hoe, and we've got some root balls from something else which need to come out in there. I really hope the sound's all right with the wind blowing. But just while I'm on it, I'm going to start measuring out for the posts to go around the back of the pond. So this whole pond, I've said, I've got hair in my mouth. So this pond, the wildlife garden, I really hope you're not getting wind damaged. So yeah, onto the wildlife garden. I'm so excited about this year, and the first thing I need to do is get these posts in, because we want to get a nice screen up the back for putting the bird houses on and the bird feeders, and get things climbing up them and all the rest of it. I got some feather edge boarding to go, sorry, I'm eating my own hair, feather edge boarding to go across them, not all the way up, it's going to be really quite gappy, but yeah, I'm going to measure out for that now. Sorry about the wind. One post down. We're going to have some lunch now, and we've bought pretty unsophisticated lunch with us today. We're having packet noodles. But it does mean we can cook them in the shed, which is handy. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. There you go. The tree cabbages are sprouting at the moment, i.e. like making little flowers, and not only are they delicious, so I recommend anybody eating them, but if you leave them on, they really do like the plants over, so you really have to take them off, but they are completely delicious, and we're going to have them in the noodles.
That's with the cabbage in it.
So bright, aren't they?
I'm going to get those onto my spoon. Which is
It's actually a bit chilly to be standing there holding a post, and I don't feel like that's very good treatment for Mother's Day. Like, what did you do for your mum on Mother's Day? I made her stand in the cold and hold a post straight. Yeah. I'm gonna just leave those two. So we've got 2 posts up, which is really good. And then in the middle of the week, I'm going to get the other 2 in, and then I can start putting the featherboard panels across. But I'm pleased we made a start on it anyway. That's really good. So next thing on the list is I'm going to make a cup of coffee, and then I'm going to sow some carrots, which is, well, that's quite exciting. Other than those peas that I sowed this morning that were pre-sprouted, this will be the first like direct bit of sowing for the year. So yeah, Mum's been clearing that spot this morning, and only because it just had some of the kaleets which we had only eaten the tops of. You know, the ones that weren't doing anything. I think I showed you a couple of weeks ago. So we've eaten them, and she was just clearing them out of the way. So I'm just going to rake it flat and put a bit of compost on, and then sow straight into it. I'm going to try a broader like drill for the carrots this time. Rather than just doing one narrow drill and a sprinkle, I'm going to go kind of about this wide, a couple of inches wide, all the way down, and kind of broad sow, but only inside that thing. I know normally we do these straight lines because when you're doing direct sow particularly, it makes it very, very easy to tell what's coming up is what you've actually planted or what you've sown versus just weeds coming up through the compost. But I think I'll still be able to tell with them broad, and I think I will get more carrots per row with a broader sowing because they'll have that bit much more space. That's my thinking anyway. Never done it before, so it is a bit of a trial, but we will see. Would you like that for Mother's Day, Mum?
I've got 3 of them, they're all as blunt as each other.
This is the bed the carrots are going to be in this year, right in front of these couple of tree cabbages. Obviously the tree cabbages are going to be there for a number of years, so we're just putting various in the front here. It's going to be a mixture of carrots and probably beetroot, I think, but the carrots are going to go in a big square in the centre of this bed because we've got the carrot root fly box which is going to go over the top. So these are my 2 lines. I'm going to do one wide sown like that, and the other one is going to be a narrow sown. I'm doing both the same variety. They're not actually early Nantes, they are Amsterdam Forcing 3. But I'm doing both rows the same variety so I can compare the different ways of sowing. The reason I'm really pushing down the soil here is because you need really good contact between the soil and the seed. Later on in the year, when everything's a bit drier, I will water the ground before I sow the seed and then give it just a sprinkling afterwards. But the ground is so wet at the moment, there was no need to do that. Carrot seed do need to stay wet, and I know sometimes people put planks or boards or cardboard over the top of the carrots to keep them wet so that they don't dry out. If they dry out, you get really poor germination. And I will probably try that with my next sowing. So I'm hoping by the beginning of April things are going to be a bit drier, at least a little bit drier. And I will probably try then. I don't think there's any reason to with these ones because everything's so wet and we've got like no prospect of an extended dry patch coming up. But later in the year, I will put something over the top just to hold the moisture in the soil until they've germinated. Obviously, you have to take it off quite quickly afterwards because otherwise they're trying to grow through a board. What are you up to in here, Mum?
Pardon?
What are you up to in here?
Right, I've got some dill in this one.
Let's have a look.
I'm going to put more coriander in there, and I'm not sure about this one. It's either going to be sorrel or chervil. I haven't quite decided. Did we want more sorrel growing?
I think we were going to put in another row, weren't
Yes,
we?
we were.
Somewhere.
Okay, that's what I'm going to do.
Lovely. She really loves that coriander plant.
It's the best one I've ever grown. This is in the world.
Coffee?
Thank you. Thank you. Beautiful filthy nose.
Well, it's been pretty successful, hasn't it? Something else that I'm going to do before I go is the apricot tree is blossoming beautifully. The wind hasn't taken all the blossom off, but there isn't a great deal of things flying around. We have a winter flowering cherry at home, and I saw quite a lot of bees on there this morning, so I was quite hopeful, but I haven't seen anything. So I'm just going to whiz round it with the paintbrush. But let me show you the blossom because they are so beautiful. Look how lovely these are. So the beautiful like shell pink, and then they've got that really dark pink back. And what I love most about them is when the buds are opening, they like the outer ones kind of peel back and you get this like this pink outside with a white star in the middle. God, I love them. So because apricots and peaches and nectarines and that kind of thing flower so early, often they need a bit of help because there's just some years by this time there's loads of things flying around, all the bees are out and everything, but some years like this year it's just that bit colder and there's just not that much around. And I wasn't utterly convinced that me like kind of standing around with a paintbrush and just like twiddling them was really going to make that much of a difference. Until, was it last year? No, it was the year before. I started doing it and got bored and I only did one branch, and I can tell you that branch was the branch that had all the fruit on it. So yeah, I am a convert. This is definitely the way forward. And it's raining. Cheers, chaps. I can't believe how busy a week this has been. It's just nuts. And what day is it today? It's Monday today, and I'm back to work again tomorrow. So there's just no time. I don't know what's happened. I mean, during lockdown, no days have existed for a different reason, and now no days exist because I just don't seem to have any of them, rather than too many. Yeah, this doing 2 videos a week thing is interesting choice, Jessie, well done. I maybe should have thought a bit more about that before I committed fully. Anyway, even though we only had one day, I think it was quite a successful day. We got loads done. I mean, it goes to show you really can, like, just with the one day you can get loads done, but I'm used to a more kind of sedate way of doing things, and also filming everything. Like, normally I go up and I do maybe like 3 main jobs or whatever when I've gone up there for a day, and I normally only film 1, which kind of leaves you to just get on with the rest of it. But when you're only going up for 1 day and I've got a vlog to put out, I'm trying to like film everything and it's a bit like well, it's my own fault, but yeah, so it was really nice. Despite it being the only day we got to go up there, it was really nice to spend Mother's Day up there with Mum, so you know, I can't complain about that. Yeah, so we bailed yesterday when the rain came because looking at the forecast, it was coming and then it was going to stay for the whole night, so there wasn't much chance of it blowing over, so we bailed. I think it's just a case of kind of getting back into it. Like, I've had the luxury of like all of the time is my own, you know, over the last year, although I did have that patch when I did go back to work for a bit. there was that. But overall, I've just kind of like, I've been getting the work done, but it's been kind of like on my own terms rather than having to go to work and be there for like 3 days, and all of that time is taken out. Although, you know, as the nights are getting lighter, the whole day isn't really taken up, is it? Because by the time you get home, there's still a bit of daylight, and you know, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I do think maybe ripping my bedroom to pieces was a bit optimistic of me, but yeah, just something else to do. Well, yeah, I'm going to make this really short. I promise I am actually going to make this really short this time. I'm going to sow some chard this evening. Chard, my favourite, as you know. Going to get that in. That's the first chard I'm sowing for this year, which is quite exciting. I think I've reduced it to 5 varieties this year. And I've also, so next week, something I'm going to do is put that bed in. You know, I asked you, was it last vlog? I think it must have been last vlog. I asked you last vlog about what shape to make that bed that's outside the shed, which has got the 2 apple trees in it. Well, huge response. Thank you. But I've got to tally up the answers now and see what shape we're going to make it. So I'm going to be doing that next week. I should have a few more days at the plot next week, I think. And part of the reason I think this week has seemed like it's gone really fast without me getting up there is that we had loads of wind and rain. And so I didn't go out. It wasn't time stopping, I just didn't go. And then suddenly it was work again. So it was like, oh God, yeah, one of those. But yeah, so next week is beds going in. I think spring starts next week, doesn't it? Isn't the 21st of March? I think that's the beginning of spring. So it's all coming together, chaps. It's all coming together. I'm going to have this glass of wine. I'm going to have a bath, and I'm going to get ready for work tomorrow because I always leave something at home that I need to have brought with me. Right, big cheers. I'm going to leave it at that. It's nearly spring. We'll all go, chaps. Cheers. So yeah, I can't believe I'll go back to work tomorrow.